Okay, so there's a lot to love with Maul Shadow Lord. It's a visually stunning series with a great concept. However, its story and execution, I feel, has left a little to be desired. Which, honestly, is something I didn't want to have to say. But unfortunately, I feel as if I can just see too many missed opportunities with this series, that ultimately, if they had been taken, I think could have made the series even greater than it is. And ultimately, I think the worst problem with this series just has to be the fact that the Darth Maul show doesn't allow Darth Maul to be Darth Maul enough.
Where is Maul? I'm right here.
Which I know might be a weird complaint to have with a series all about Darth Maul, but really, I think you'll understand my point once we get into it. So without any further ado, here's why Darth Maul Shadow Lord is great, but disappointing.
Finally!
Okay, so if I'm going to refine my criticism of this series to its purest point, I'd have to say that my criticism lies in two places. Okay, so first off has to be its visually stunning and awesome looking animation. And really, for the longest time now, Star Wars has been a series that's been very comfortable with 3D animation. Star Wars as a franchise has been one of those franchises that has put out various great and visually stunning 3D animated series in the past, with a lot of the franchise's initial prowess stemming from its initial release of the Clone Wars cartoon. And really, if you go back to that series and you rewatch it, you can see just how that show really was the starting point for this franchise in getting into 3D animation. Then if you continue watching the series and you watch the follow-up spin-off series like the Clone Wars, Season 7 and The Bad Batch, you can see really how the creators working behind the scenes on the series have really grown their skill set and really become far more interested in just playing around with the sorts of visual aesthetic that they're playing with.
So beautiful.
So yeah, you can see all of this visual experimentation and all of this visual evolution in their series previously. And here in Maul Shadow Lord, you can really see the culmination of all of that experimentation and evolution. The creators working behind the scenes on the series have come a long way since the first days of the Clone Wars with their low poly models and various low quality textures. Here, however, we have far more interesting looking models and high quality textures, in addition to a wide variety of 2D drawn visual effects and painted effects. There's also various matte painted backgrounds like something you would find out of the original series. The animation on and the presentation of the characters in this series is also something that's come a long way since the initial days of the Clone Wars. Seriously, I can't really just get across how clunky some of the initial animation was back in the first few seasons of the Clone Wars.
Hey, get off of me! Don't move.
And honestly, I did really kind of complete my rewatch of the series recently, and so that's probably why I'm harping on about it. Also, I'm bringing it up here in this review for Darth Maul Shadow Lord because, of course, the animation in this series is spectacular. The character animation is specific to individual characters and really gives them a good sense of character in and of itself. No character really moves the same way, which is something that I think really helps to make those characters feel a bit more distinct. Darth Maul himself is someone who has metal legs and moves like someone who would have robotic legs, which was a great little character animation detail that I really enjoyed. Overall, all of the animation was really smooth and really well put together, with it especially being really quite well paced, especially in fight scenes. Overall, I think that the visuals and animation of this series is really quite stunning. With it being the culmination of a lot of the various different experiments and evolution that has come from previous series, I would like to see this aesthetic return in the future, whether that comes in the form of a second season for Maul Shadow Lord or some sort of new Star Wars project. And just lastly, before I move on, because of course I know people are going to bring this up eventually, I have to say that the lightsabers in this series looked especially pretty great. Of course, when it comes to fans of Star Wars animation, I know that there's this big back and forth between just what kind of lightsaber people really enjoy. And I'm not talking personal lightsaber hilts or just personal lightsabers between characters. Instead, I'm talking about just the presentation of lightsabers in Star Wars animation. Essentially, the whole argument boils down to whether or not people likes the thicker lightsabers of Star Wars The Clone Wars or the thinner lightsabers of Star Wars Rebels better. And honestly, to this point, I have to say that both lightsaber styles have their own advantages and disadvantages. I heard that with the Clone Wars series, the Disney Plus versions of the show's episodes have the whites of the lightsabers removed at some points just to prevent like epileptic seizures, which is something I heard. I don't know if it's true or not. And then of course, I've heard from people who have watched Star Wars Rebels on smaller screens, especially mobile phones, and who have complained that the blades have been so thin it's been hard to see them. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. Thankfully, however, I truly believe that I can say that Darth Maul Shadow Lord has the best balance of both worlds. The lightsabers in this series aren't too thick, they aren't too thin, and really they all have their own looks and really just distinct character details between them, which I really think helps to aid in just making each character a bit more distinct and really make the show quite a bit more visually stunning. And yeah, I don't know if my answer is going to satisfy any of the fanboys in my audience, but hey ho, you can only try.
Why not both? Then everybody's happy.
Oh yeah, everyone's real happy then.
Do I detect a note of sarcasm?
Are you kidding me? This baby is off the charts. Why?
Okay, so Darth Maul Shadow Lord, as a 3D animated Star Wars series, is visually stunning. The show looks great, and it's clear that all the artists working on the show behind the scenes put a lot of hard work and really brought every bit of effort to this series that they could. Which, honestly, I think is just great. Half of me watching this series was me just watching it for the pretty animation. Unfortunately, where I think the show slips up, it has to be in its writing and its pacing. And honestly, to get to the core of my criticism with this series, I have to say that Maul in this series doesn't get enough time to really be Maul. And that I honestly think is for a few reasons. First off, the series is only 10 episodes of 20 minutes each, which becomes an especially more difficult thing to deal with for the series, especially writing-wise, because by the latter half of the series, the majority of the show is just Maul trying to escape the Empire, which in and of itself is fine, technically, especially given when this series is taking place in the Star Wars timeline. However, what really doesn't help this plotline just has to be the fact that it really kind of suffers from a lot of the same problems that the previous Tales series suffered from. It's something where the series wants to do a lot with its characters and its story, but really doesn't have enough time to really flesh out those characters and the story to the sort of extent that it wants to. And right now, I'm trying to keep this review as spoiler-free as possible, because despite my criticisms, I do still think that this series really is worth watching, and I really think that if you're into Star Wars animation, you should go out and you should watch this series. But still though, as I was saying, Maul Shadow Lord does suffer from a lot of the problems that I think the previous Star Wars Tales series suffered from. And honestly, I think the biggest example of that can come from the characterization of Maul, especially in the beginning and very end of the series. All throughout the series, we are given vague hints as to what is driving Maul and what his plans are. In the very beginning of the series, we see some of those plans unfolding, but we don't really get an explanation of why. We don't really get to see how previous characters have wronged Maul, why they wronged him, and what he's doing to undermine them. Instead, we just see him take his revenge in the simplest terms. Which, for an action series like this, I think you could get away with. My problem with it though is that Darth Maul only really ignites his lightsaber twice to go out and get the people who betrayed him. Before, of course, the Jedi come into the story, then the Empire comes into the story, and then everybody's trying to escape Janix, and really you can start to see where my problems are coming from. Hopefully at least anyway. And hey, if you're not getting it, well, let me explain. Darth Maul Shadow Lord Season 1 I think is full of some really great story ideas and really great concepts for the story, especially in terms of the different stories that are happening around specific characters. However, there are so many different ideas and so many different concepts all crammed into one season of only 10 episodes at 20 minutes each, that I don't think any one of these stories really gets enough time to be properly flushed out.
Why you boring me? I'm right.
And honestly, I think that the characters suffer this problem the worst. In something like Star Wars Andor, we got enough time to spend with each character that we got to fully understand who that character was and what sort of person they are. This allowed us to actually identify and connect with those characters. And really, if you're looking for an animated perspective of something like this, then please just look no further than Star Wars The Bad Batch, which is a Star Wars show that really managed to achieve that objective for each individual member of the Bad Batch as well as the side characters in that show. Maul Shadow Lord is not a series that manages to achieve the same sort of thing. Instead, Maul Shadow Lord is a series so full of so many different characters that you really don't get enough time to spend with any of them. And so when they get cut apart by lightsabers, blown into bits by explosions, or blasted by blasters, you don't really care when they die. And again, I'm trying to keep this review as spoiler-free as I can, but this is something that I think the show really struggled with. And it got to a point where this show really killed off one character, and I really didn't care much at all, because this character really didn't have enough time to develop and be portrayed as a real person to me. In fact, his overall death was so laughable to me that I think he played a more interesting character when he actually played Death in Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish. But still, despite saying that, I can't say that the show is badly written. In fact, the show is quite well written and quite well put together. I just think that the show tries to do too many things all at once, and that I think it could have taken a bit more time to properly flush out a lot of its ideas and concepts, which in the end I think would have made for a greater viewing experience and a greater show overall. So yeah, Maul Shadow Lord is a really quite visually stunning series that looks so fantastic. I just think that it's a shame it's not as fantastically written. I love the animation, I love the presentation of the series, and I love the fight scenes. I just wanted a bit more out of the story and characters. But still, that is just my opinion of the series, and really I know that with a series like this, everybody's going to have their own opinions. So please everybody, tell me in the comments section down below what you thought about Maul Shadow Lord. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you think there were things that could have been done better? Please, let me know. Also, please don't forget to do all the usual YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, and comment. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.